My name is Matt Holzappel. I'm the Director of Public Works, and I'm here to present to Council the results of the citizen survey for two projects, the Town East Boulevard project from US 80 to Skyline Drive and, excuse me, Skyline Drive from Town East to Peachtree Road. Just a reminder why we're dealing with two projects at one time. Kind of unusual, but the main reasons is that both these roads abut the same neighborhood. Also, the projects are not far apart construction-wise. The Town East project, we hope to go to bid and start construction at the end of this year. Skyline is about a year and a half down the road. We hope to have design complete, so we're ready to bid that once the Town East project is completed. So they're time-wise, they're not far apart. And the third reason is they share a common intersection, the Town East Skyline Boulevard intersection. And in order to get that intersection right, we have to know what the Skyline cross-section will be so that we build the intersection when we build Town East Boulevard for the new configuration and not necessarily the existing configuration. To kind of walk you through, refresh your memory on what steps we've already gone through. We did mail notices to 1,100 homes adjacent to the projects. This was prior to the public meeting that we had. We put out signs, message boards to notify the neighborhood, put lots of information out on social media and on the city website. And as a result, at our public meeting on February 27th, it had a very good attendance. We had 120 citizens present at the public meeting plus city staff. So it was a full auditorium there at Rugel Elementary, so we had a great turnout. After the meeting, we handed out quite a few of the surveys to the people at the meeting. We also mailed out 1,100 surveys after the meeting to the adjacent neighborhoods. Plus, we posted online on the city website an online survey available for all city residents. We kind of had a soft deadline for the survey to be completed, March 23rd. We did have a few dribble in after that date, which we did add to our totals and so forth. So we wanted to collect everything that we got up to a reasonable time. The city websites that we had up also had all the information from the public meeting, detailed schematics, the presentation, even a video of the public meeting, traffic impact analysis as well. After tonight, we'd like Council's permission to also post the results of the citizen survey on the website so the citizens have the benefit of what their neighbors and other citizens in the city voted and what they thought about the various projects. Another step that we might mention is the next council meeting, May 7th. We do plan on holding a public meeting for additional citizen input. We promised them we would do that, but that's another point in time where we can have public input to the process, and they can review these results as well. The surveys that were sent in, you can see we had 214 surveys mailed into the city and 56 done on the city website on the online survey. It's kind of surprising that in the day of the internet and phones and everything, 4 out of 5 surveys were still using the postal service. So it just kind of shows what we had. We had a total of 270 surveys. The vast majority of those were in the neighborhood immediately adjacent to both projects. Part of the handouts we have here is we did catalog every survey we had. Some of them had written comments on the surveys as well. That's available for council. We didn't put that, we're not planning on putting that out on the website because there's some personal information on there as far as addresses and names and people, so we don't want to get that out there because it is personal information. But for the council's benefit, we did catalog every single comment that appeared on those surveys. So you can, there's quite a few there, but it does make interesting reading and kind of gives an additional dimension to the information on the survey. This is just kind of a map, shows kind of a plot of where the surveys were turned in from, and you can see it was very well distributed in the neighborhood right next to the two projects. We did get a smattering throughout the city, but very few in the other areas of the city. There were just a handful, really.
Looks like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's a double dot, I didn't see. It looks like there's about 19 that are not in the neighborhood. So, I mean, if that worked out, does that sound right? About 19 not in?
Yes, probably less than 20.
So, 251 in the neighborhood, 19 outside. So, I mean, these surveys, I think, really reflect what the neighborhood wants and doesn't want out there.
I agree. And it's pretty amazing that we had pretty much a 20 to 25% return rate, which is pretty remarkable for any sort of survey. So let's talk about kind of the results we have on Townies Boulevard. If you'll recall, the first segment of Townies Boulevard, US 80 to Forney Road, we think we need all 6 lanes that we currently have. So we really weren't offering the public, the citizens there, alternatives to that. The traffic counts, we feel we absolutely need the 6 lanes. That's a lot of traffic comes in on Forney Road from the intermodal, and we need full 6 lanes on that short section from Forney Road up to US 80 to carry that traffic. So we're really focusing on that longer section south of Forney to Skyline Drive and the options there. Option A, which was the option, 4-lane option, pushing the roadway away from the homes, adding some amenities, the trail closest to the home. You can see there was an overwhelming sentiment from the surveys. 71% or 173 of the surveys opted for this option. This is also the least costly of the 2 options. By the way, I might note we handed out a new project estimate that we just handed out here that's different from what appeared in your packets. We kind of looked at it as we were going through the estimates, and we found some issues that we were concerned with. Didn't change the dollar amounts a lot, but they are slightly different from what appeared in your packets. These costs are construction costs only. They don't reflect engineering costs or inspection costs, project management costs. There is a 20% contingency in these numbers as well. But you can see option A is almost $600,000 less expensive than option B, which is to basically rebuild the existing roadway.
This is roadway only? Is this drainage also?
This includes the entire project: drainage, utilities, the screening wall, the trail. It's the total construction cost package for the 2 options.
Okay,
sir.
Thank you. Looks like it's kind of overwhelming there on the first one.
This one, it's pretty amazing. I didn't expect such a lopsided. Any questions on that particular option that we?
Anybody want to go against 71%? And the cheaper?
Yeah. Alternative.
Okay, that was easy. Let's go.
Okay. Let's jump to Skyline Boulevard. This is a little bit more complex because we did offer the neighborhood and the city 4 different options. Option D was reconstruct the current configuration. You can see there was very little support from the neighborhood for that option. Only 22 surveys, 9% of the overall total opted for that. There's 2 kind of competing A and C that we're going to kind of focus on, but option A was the 3-lane without a median, pushed as far away from the neighborhood as possible, had a center continuous left turn lane. This maximized the green space next to the neighborhood. It also has the lowest cost by quite a significant number. If you go to the very bottom of that slide, the delta between option C, which was the next kind of the same percentage as 33% for both of those, the 2 highest rated with the neighborhood. Option C is quite a bit more expensive than option A. If you go to...
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Before you go on, these were dollars and things and percentages, and also as presented the night of the public hearing. In other words, I heard several people, and I thought there was very good ideas. If, and I'm not saying we should or would, but if we went with option A, the long turning bays for the streets where you have loading and loading and
Right.
unloading, that's not considered in these prices.
It is, there are going to be dedicated right turn lanes and in areas where you have lots of turn movements there in order to get the traffic off of the travel lane and kind of queue them up.
Right.
Approaches to the streets and the drive approaches on the south side that feed into the industrial complex.
So this is kind of somewhat figured into that already.
It is already, sir, because we had a pretty good layout. If you remember, the schematics showed those right turn bays, and the engineer did take the pavement for those right turn bays into account as well, sir.
Just bring it up because there was several comments made, and that made a lot of sense. If you've got stacking purposes and you can get over and get in and out of the residential streets, the 3 lanes may not be that big of an issue. If you've got, it's kind of hard to portray that until you're driving on it and you can understand that I'm turning off and I have room to turn out, come down, and then merge. So, okay, thank you.
The option B is the 4-lane undivided, 2 lanes in each direction but without a median. Adds a lane of pavement, which bumps the cost a little bit. This had 65 surveys turned in, selecting this as their preferred option, which is 25% of the count. And option C, which is the next, if you count just total surveys, it had 1 survey more. But this is the 4-lane divided, but it's a narrow median. It still shoves the roadway as far to the south as possible up against the industrial area and away from the homes. Doesn't get it quite as much clearance, but certainly improves over the present situation, and does have the trail and screening wall as well. This had 33% of the count, 84 surveys versus 83 for the option A. The cost is considerably higher. If you look at that line, the difference in cost between option A and C is about $1.3 million. So there is a pretty good delta between those. And with that, I'm ready to entertain questions. If we want to visit any of the sections, we can do that as well.
And Mr. Miklos, I'll weigh in here just a second. I want to make sure tonight, this is just a briefing. You said there's another public hearing even prior to any type of decision by the council?
Correct. We'd like to take this to council or open a public hearing on May 7th at the city council meeting, after which we would ask the council for direction on which option to pursue on both of these projects.
The 7th or the 21st?
We could do a public hearing on the 7th and then put the direction on the 21st.
That's what that would be my choice.
So that we have a chance to hear it and
That's what I'm getting at.
We can do
analyze
that,
it.
sir.
Okay.
I think our thought was if residents were for it, the council could pass it at that meeting and not delay the design work anymore. I mean, it's 2 weeks, but
Town East may not matter. It's the Skyline that I think we need more conversation about.
I agree.
we
We can do that too.
we can do that.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm trying to, yeah.
Mayor, I'm with you 100%.
Councilman Miklos.
So, just for a minute, with traffic engineering, your staff's recommendation of these 4, if your staff had a vote and voted, what would your vote have been as the staff's recommendation purely on traffic flow, future traffic counts? What would your recommendation have been out of these 4 options?
Option A, with the 3 lanes and the right turn bay, we feel has plenty of capacity to carry not only existing traffic, but all scenarios of projected traffic in that area. The area is fairly well built out. There's one big building under construction right now in the IDI site, that 500,000 square foot structure. We did take into account the land adjacent to Peachtree that is looking at a medical facility. We We took their site plan, which is a pretty dense site plan, and projected traffic coming out of that facility as well. And we have no doubt that it can carry the traffic, sir.
I'll just tell you my concern, and it's a traffic flow concern. With A is if you have an 18-wheeler truck going westbound on Skyline and you're turning left into what is now that empty warehouse facility, but let's say an 18-wheeler truck, hopefully with some really good product, is going in there, and it's a 3-lane undivided. I mean, you tell me, isn't that going to block both the drive-through lane and the left turn lane as it does its turn left arc into that facility?
It will momentarily, it obviously has to wait for an opening on the oncoming traffic to pass in front of it, but that's the same if there's a median or any of the other options too. You still, if you're taking a left, you're obviously crossing traffic and you have to wait for a gap in the traffic.
Yeah, and I got you on that. I guess I'm more worried about what happens behind the truck. I mean, I'm worried about all of it, but I mean, in particular, as the truck stops and does an arc on a 3-lane undivided, it can't go into the opposite lane. So it's got both the pass-through lane and then what they call the suicide lane, that middle lane, where it's waiting to turn. And so it's going to block all traffic going forward while it turns, even if it's momentarily, right?
It will block obviously the continuous left turn lane,
right,
and the oncoming traffic as it makes that turn. There's no question.
And so, and I don't know the answer. I'm not trying to lead you on these questions. 4-lane undivided, 4-lane divided. Do either of those options go any distance to solving that issue? Like if I have a 4-lane divided, for example, and I have a truck in the left lane, and I have a median where I'm turning in and turning to, and I can stack for a minute, doesn't that allow my right lane to continue to pass and go through?
Yes, sir, but if you're dealing with the 3-lane option, the truck should be in that middle lane, and we can certainly make that middle lane a little bit wider because we know we're accommodating truck traffic. Typically, it's 12-foot wide, but we can certainly bump that to a 14-foot width if we're worried about the truck straying out of that continuous right turn lane as it queues up to make the left.
And I appreciate that. And it sounds like if we're going to do the 3-lane undivided, that middle lane would have to be pretty wide, especially with 18-wheelers, and if that's the direction we go to. I just want to point something out to everyone, and I know you can do math just as well as I can, but between B and C, you have nearly 60% of people saying that they want 4 lanes. Now, it is divided between divided and undivided. That was a good pun. But you have 60% of the neighborhood wanting 4 lanes. And I will tell you what I heard from some people, not everyone, was a concern that if that Skyline facility gets filled, if the Peachtree Medical Center has significant traffic and there's turn-in lanes, turn-out lanes, that traffic is going to very much stack, and especially in the morning and evenings, as you have dense traffic going both ways, a truck is trying to turn in, it can't turn in for minutes, the whole entire road stacks. And so I'm just sharing with the rest of the council concern, some of the conversations I've had. I know what you're looking at. You're like, hey, the 3 lanes, it's the least expensive option, and it's sort of tied with another option. I will tell you one of the things I'm looking at is I've got 60% of my neighborhood saying that they want 4 lanes on that road. They're just sort of divided as to whether it would be divided or undivided. So I just wanted everybody to note that.
Yes, sir. We'll just go on down the road. Mr. Burrows?
On these prices here, I know on Town East we're pouring extra thick concrete and all that. Is that same thing going to be happening on Skyline?
Absolutely, sir. This takes into the industrial thickness, 13 inches or more pavement thickness, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Matt,
Yes, sir.
I think you can, I guess I'm a little wary of reading into some of the percentages for anything other than what they voted for. I think you can make stats almost say anything, and to that point, if we combine, well, let me ask you this: the survey that was done included both the Town East Boulevard and the Skyline Drive options together, right, in the same
Correct.
survey.
Correct, sir.
So one could say that the respondents found some utility in lane reductions, adding amenities, adding hike and bike, and pulling the road. If you combine those two results together, on Town East overwhelmingly so, and then depending on how you divide these numbers on Skyline, still so. And I guess I have some difficulty combining B and C and getting any sort of, or I'm sorry, A and C, and getting any utility out of those numbers without also doing the same sort of consideration for no median, right? We could combine and say that, well, that's 59% right there, just oppose medians altogether. And so I guess I am more comfortable looking at the results independently from each other, just as the respondents are saying. I am kind of leaning towards option A. It's tied with other results. It's, I think, consistent with what we saw with the Town East Boulevard responses, and I think it's a good deal, and it saves us upkeep costs down the road.
All right. Any other comments? If we do the public hearing on May 7th, I think the Town East thing, I don't hear a lot of, people saying one way or the other. I think the 71%, we could probably do that hearing and get that passed, for sure, it sounds like. This, I think, if we have responses that may give us some more insight as to what we may be able to come to a conclusion either that evening or on the 21st, I think that would be best. Is that all right?
Very good, sir.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Yes, sir.
I know we're seeking additional comments from the citizens, but I think our objective was to go with some council direction when we notify the residents. So if we can try to get some direction from the council on which option you're leaning towards. We're not voting tonight. We're just looking for something to put as the city's preferred alternative.
Want to go back to Town
I
East?
think we've got that one, option A.
No, we know that.
I think
Okay,
everyone
no,
had.
no question there.
Skyline
Okay.
was the one we were needing.
Are you comfortable if we just go around and ask? I know Mayor Pro Tem's kind of said his preference. Robert, you had said C, or am I reading too much into that?
No, I mean, sorry. I just think, and I disagree with the Mayor Pro Tem on this, and I think that you've got almost 60% of the neighborhood saying they want 4 lanes. They're disagreeing as to how they want 4 lanes. To address the Mayor Pro Tem's issues about bike lanes and pulling the lanes away from the neighborhood, and undivided, which got 26% to the 33% of the divided, frees up more of that area, allows a hike and bike trail and buffering and some landscaping against that. And I like that option. But I don't want to discount the neighbors who I think legitimately are worried about an undivided roadway, having mere inches between them and oncoming traffic on the other side. And I have somewhat of the same concern, although not as much, with a 3-lane undivided. You have the suicide lane there, and so you have somewhat of a distance buffer between 2 active lanes of traffic. But I'm not a fan of the 3-lane undivided because of what I just said, which is I anticipate during the morning and evening hours there's going to be really significant stacking, especially if we fill that Skyline business with a business that's going to have 18-wheelers. Now, it's true, and the Mayor Pro Tem is right, that frees up the most space. But I think that the 4-lane undivided, even the 4-lane divided, the way we had it configured, still allowed the hike and bike trail and landscape buffering and the screening, not a noise wall, but a screening wall against that neighborhood. So I'm just remembering the conversations I had, and I will tell you, right now I'd like to have a real good discussion with that neighborhood as to divided or undivided. Are y'all sticking with 4 lanes, and how do you want this devolved between divided and undivided? Or do you really want a 3-lane? I don't want us determining this because a third of the neighborhood said I want 3 lanes, and then having 2/3 of the neighborhood upset at the reduction in lanes on this one. Just like I'm going to go with the neighborhood in reducing the lanes and pulling it away from the neighborhood on the other area as well. The top concern is, what are these neighbors really saying? And so I'd like to go through that hearing with divided and undivided 4-lane as an option for discussion, and the 3-lane as a viable discussion as well, and just eliminate D. That's what I would suggest, is having all 3 as a point of discussion for the neighbors and,
Thank you.
and for the city in general.
So you're not B or C, either one. Okay. I got
Sorry,
you.
took a long way
I got
to
you.
say.
Yeah, just say no.
That's right.
I'm good. Mr. Burrows.
I agree with Councilman Miklos. I think the divided is much more safer. I hate spending an extra $1.3 million though that would cost. So I'm kind of divided there. I mean, I hate to spend I hate to spend all that extra money, but I think the divided would be a lot safer.
Okay, so C. Anybody else on this side, or are we okay with D being eliminated?
Yes.
All right, for the most part, yes. Everybody's okay with D.
Okay.
So we have 1A, 1C, 1B or C.
Mayor, not to complicate it, it's not like I would vote to not approve
Right.
this project if we were going with C. And Matt, when we talk more with residents, I guess I'd like to tease out whether folks are, not supporting a median, because if you combine A and B together, there's 59% that are saying no median, right, whatsoever. If we're going to kind of put some of these ideas together to try to extrapolate some overarching values, I think that could be a little bit clearer.
I think in the people I talked to, those that did not want a median just wanted to maximize
Green
the
space.
buffer and the green space. And I think they understand the issue with the traffic volumes is low. To kind of give you an idea, right now, Skyline has a traffic volume of under 5,000 vehicles per day. We're proposing to go with 3 lanes. To give you an idea of others, Franklin Drive near Tripp Road presently carries around 9,000 vehicles per day, and that's a 2-lane asphalt roadway. And it's carrying about what we're projecting for Skyline Boulevard, and it's carrying it now with a 2-lane asphalt roadway.
Right.
And there isn't much in a truck mix. There is that small industrial area there to the west of Franklin. There is some truck traffic, but it's not a huge percentage of the mix that we'd find on Skyline. So there is a difference. The total number of vehicles about the same, but there is a difference in the mix.
And real quick, I know it's 7, and I know you're looking for direction, but Tripp Road, almost the length of this, 4 lanes, but there's no real truck cut through there. Do you happen to know the counts on Tripp between Galloway and Beltline?
I do not, but
Okay.
I can get those
All right.
for you.
I'm like Mayor Pro Tem, it's not to complicate it, but but I'm going to anyway.
If I had to do Trip again, I'd probably suggest 3 lanes there too, but
I know. That's actually why I was bringing it up, because of the volumes and stacking and all that. It's interesting. Yes,
Real
sir.
briefly, Mayor.
Please.
I personally lean a little bit more towards C. I think, and I agree with Councilman Burrows, I'm kind of torn, but I like the safety aspect. I think the Mayor Pro Tem has some merit to his comments about combining A and B on no median. So I'm going to go back to your comment, Mayor. I'd sure like to hear more from folks out there, a little bit more. So,
Well, y'all need to encourage them to be here on the 7th. That's what it sounds
Understood.
like we're going to do, Councilman Hall.
Just to say that I agree also, I lean towards the B and C, and to be able to hear the neighbors about what they have to say. They're the ones that have to live with it. They're going to drive it. So I lean towards that.
Let's get them here on the 7th then.